Okay, I think we are live. Audio levels okay. Focus on camera not okay. Zoom in. Get the mini. Where are you? There you are. Although I'm not on. There we go. Roughly centered. Not on my X though, but oh well. Good afternoon, at least here, whatever time of day it is, wherever you are. It is Sunday, so let's stream some hobbying. I was going to say some painting, but I don't know if I'm going to paint today. Get up the comments so I can see what you all saying. Excuse me. Okay. Wherever you are. Yep. There we go. All right. Get that where I can see it. All right. So title today's plot is we've been kind of working on Sundays on and off kit bashing a new Venator kill team, and I've got right here the first example of that. I should zoom in. There we go. So this was originally it was a felon and rogue trader I built, but we re-kit bashed her into something a little more suitable for Necromunda. Took some doing, had to reinforce her arm and her ankles. Also added the servo skull to ground her further into Warhammer land. Everything is dry now. The only problem is that from eye level her pistol's pointing down a little. So I might need to undo that and kind of reshape that connection, because I'd like it to be pointing up a bit. Might not seem like it matters, but there we go. Because, yeah, if you look at her on the level, which is hard to do on camera, you see that her pistol's kind of pointing down, which is not quite the pose I want. I want it just a little more stable. And I think the way to do that... I could redo the arm at the connection point. That's probably the easiest. So we'll just pop that off. There we go. Sand it down. This is why I use plastic glue, because among many other things, it's more permanent, but also you can sand down the connections later. Let's go back to wide. There we go. There we go. Shuffle. Okay. I have a feeling what we'll do there to make that work is kind of make a ball joint with some sprue goo. I'll get that started, and then we'll talk about the rest of what we're doing today. Sprue goo. If you don't know sprue goo, you just take plastic cement and put sprues into it until it kind of forms a goo. And that lets you do stuff like this, where it'll kind of form a ball of plastic or a line of plastic or whatever you need. Put a dollop there. And then, all right, so I'm going to have to be weirdo on this camera about this, because I need to be able to see it at eye level. All right, in there. That's what I want it to be. So, let me check the connection points. Yep, I'm going to have to fill in some sprue goo later with that, and that's okay. There's the joy of kit bashing. See, there we go. That's more level. Oop, I broke off her tail doing that. That's also going to need to be sprue gooed on. Nope, that sagged. Okay, so. Hold that level while it dries. There you go. Okay, let me see. Might have to drill and pin that tail, because otherwise that is just on there by a thread. I'd like it to come in a little more. There we go. That makes it less stable, because it doesn't have the arm to stick to. So let's get a little more goo in there. So of course we can all file away later. That's why sprue goo is so much better than like green stuff. Green stuff has its uses, as shown by I used it on the collar there to make fur. It's really hard to sand the green stuff when you're done. That being said, that joint is big enough, and the joint we need to make is big enough. I think we're actually going to have to use some green stuff. But that's okay. Unless there is another way, which is build up some sprue goo a little bit at a time to fill in that gap. Let it dry, come back to it, and just kind of slowly build up a layer. All right, well, while she's drying, let's talk about the other things we're going to be doing. I've got all these weirdos here that I've kitbashed or used for various other games that I've either already played or don't play anymore. So, what do we want to do? Well, turn them into something I do play, which right now is mostly Necromunda. So, I've got a couple of these. The ones in red are from the original Rogue Trader kill team. And I figured, this guy I've already worked on. This was originally like, I don't know, Dr. Scientist man. Like a Mechanicus guy. And I filed off his Imperial filigree. Added a little taser to the tip of his gun, which was already broken anyway. Again, the problem is that's drooping. I should probably redo that. And filed off some of his more Mechanicus stuff anyway that just kind of make him a general tech man. So, great use in Vendor. Some, like this bounty hunter from, or this assassin from Horus Heresy, I only just didn't build her with some of the tentacles, and otherwise she's good to go. This is how she's going in. I didn't build some of the cables on her, but otherwise I'm just using her as is. This was a Necron that I replaced with a headlamp for a head, like the Pixar robot, don't sue me. Filled in all the skeleton-y bits and gave him some kind of weird gun. I don't even know what that gun would be. Presumably a melty gun, something heavy and terrifying. And I figure he can be a servitor. And then this guy's a lizard guy. Now, someone can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure that before my time playing Necromunda, there were kind of, I think they were called like rat skins or something like that. Kind of like vaguely lizard-ish abhumans. His thing about building a Venator team is that you can make them weird. You know, abhumans, more acceptable. But straight up aliens, not gonna fly. Not for Venators. You could do like cold traders or something like that, but not for Venators. So I'm not sure if this guy's gonna make it into my team or not. Okay, because he is very clearly not human. I gotta look up if there's lizardish abhumans that I could use him as. If not, that's okay. We'll just use him for something else. And that leaves these two right now. Who I also figured, like, these are again from the Rogue Trader set, Rogue Trader Kill Team, that has been re-released, so I have another copy of these, which means I'm less loath to destroy them, because if I ruin them, what the heck, doesn't matter, I've got extras. Originally, I was kind of like, I don't want to mess with these, because it's the only one I have, and you can't, Games Workshop doesn't make them anymore. But now they do. So I've got this gal right here, who, she's the ship's doctor, and I mean, this is just a shoe-in for a doc, right? A rogue doc. Again, I'll file down the filigree. Probably need to file down or remove the little nurgling here. Because that's not very... I mean, I can find out if it's something in Necromunda, or I could just remove it and replace it by rock. Or just turn it into a rock. That's not hard. And yeah, she'll be our rogue doc. Or maybe just a medical-based Venator. Darhawk, hello. I had a friend who used the Goatman kill team for this style team. We'll get to that. I've also got this Death Cult Assassin, who you'll notice has a lot of the same design language as this assassin, because they're both, this is a heresy assassin. This is a burgeoning Death Cult assassin. I have a very similar helmet style. So I kind of want to work her into the Venator team as well. But I got to figure out how. How do I want to do that? I probably should get up. I mean, I've got my rule book over there. I should flip through it and look through the Venator profiles and rules. Obviously, you'd make her a melee-based. That's a power sword, if I've ever seen one. You can tell that broke at some point, and I repaired it. Yeah, there's the seam line. And of course, we'd have to remove the Nurgling head, because, again, I'm not fighting demons in the Underhive. Could replace that with a gun, although her arm would be a little weird here. We could have her holding something else. We could just have her holding a normal guy's head. Kind of macabre, but fitting. And, we gotta take the base here, which has that Rogue Trader filigree on it, and remove it. So yeah, I think that's what I'll be doing today, is messing with these two. Trying to work them into the actual team. I've also got this Inquisitor here, but I don't think I could use her for anything. She's not overtly, like, if you, all you need to do is file down the inquisitorial symbol on her little tilting shield here. Maybe give her something besides a shuriken gun. And, keep her as like a... Because otherwise, like with the big skull on her shoulder, that's very much a Venator-themed hunter, right? She's also shiny because for some reason I satin varnished her. Don't know why. But now that I've learned that this mini is also still in production, I'm also less worried about butchering this one. I'll carve this one up. Sadly, can't be more helpful. I know nothing of Venators. Our trading Ash Waste, we'll have fun. Oh, nothing wrong with that. I mean, Venators are very, very open-ended. Anyway, you mentioned the Goatman. So I do want to get at least one of each of the profiles in my army. In my team. I want to get at least one bit of everything, because that's how I tend to do these things. I want to use everything. So I need to get that Beastman kill team for the Beastman. I might go on to eBay and buy just a few, so I don't have to buy the whole darn thing that I'm not going to actually play with. Then again, me being me, I tend to just buy the whole darn thing and just have bits. So I'll probably just do that. So there's Beastman. Let me get my book real quick. Oh, hey, tequila. Put the outlines. Nope. So we got Bastions of Law here. Additional rules. Wait, am I looking in the wrong book? Oh, wait, this was a free update, wasn't it? Why am I looking in Bastions of Law? For some reason, I thought Venators were in there. To the Google. Yeah, this was a Apocrypha. I don't know why I thought this was... Alright, well, I won't spend too long on this, because otherwise we'll be this guy who's just watching a blank screen. Feast of Heretics, Hive of Blood, Lost Charter, Covered Cache. I can never remember what the actual name of these things are. Gosh darn it. Bone Dry and Broke, that's it. Okay. I think we just name them something that is like, you know, a good name. Okay, so you've got people, obviously, and then you've got Ogrins, Squats, Ratlings, and Beastmen. Now, Squats, obviously, pretty easy to work in. I've got a Squat model somewhere. And if not, I can get some Ironkin from I could either, you know, the nice thing about Squats, probably should make it a Warhammer Squat or a Necromunda Squat Prospector rather than you know, rather than a Squat from Leagues of Votann, because there's not really a reason for them to be on Necromunda. Yeah, you could, again, this is, if that was Rogue Trader, different story, but we are not a Rogue Trader, we are only Venators. Of course, you can do whatever you want, and I encourage you to. But what I want to do is keep it kind of grounded. So that brings us to Ratlings, Beastmen, and Ogryn. So Beastmen are easy. I do have the Beastmen from Blackstone Fortress, but they're very limited, especially compared to the new Beastmen kill team. I could also just get Beastmen from Warhammer the Old World, formerly just Sigmar, and before that Warhammer Fantasy, but those models have not aged well. Speaking of models that haven't aged well, there is the other problem, which is Ogryn. So I do have... There's the Servitor Ogryn, who are about as good as models get. I do have the Volgrin/Ogryn kit. Boy, the problem with these guys is that these guys have not aged well at all, right? These guys don't look great. The Servitor Ogryn are better, but also more locked into being Servitors. I don't know. Hi, I built a Pyramid Head for Necromunda. Okay. Which gang should I use to buy him a two-handed sword, and what's the best way to use? Well, Greatsword is on the Cawdor House list. And the Greatsword is a pretty good weapon. It's got Sever, which means if you get to the end of your roll, you just kill people, which is really nice. I think the Greatsword is the most two-handed sword thing you're going to get. You could use the stats for a power sword as well, or any other two-handed power weapon. You could just say it's a sword, whatever. You could probably even say it's a Thunderhammer. Thunderhammer's a fun weapon, but that being said, the Great Sword's a very good weapon, so nothing wrong with that. But yeah, we've got Ogrins, which I need to figure out what I want to do. So I guess let's crack this open. Well, maybe not. If I'm only going to make one, I should probably figure out what I want to equip him with before I start actually carving someone up. And then Ratlings. So the problem with Ratlings... Now, I know Ratlings in Venators are, like, the way to play. Like, they're very, very good. Spamming them is considered, you know, how you play Venators competitively or whatever. I have no intention of doing that. That sounds very boring to me. I also hate Ratlings. I don't like them visually. So my Ratlings, whatever they will be, I need to find a small little guy who fits in Necromunda who is not a Ratling. Because I could buy the Ratling kill team. I don't want to. Because I don't like them. Alright. Anyway. Oh, dang, I just spilled pigment everywhere. Oh, well. I'll clean it up later. Forgot my pigment palette was here and I knocked it over. Word to the wise, if you have a pigment palette, make sure you don't knock it over, because now there's pigment on my desk. Not the end of the world. All right. So, first things first, you need to carve off these Imperial filigree symbols, preferably without carving off her coat entirely. She's got a little. That's a unicorn on her. Oh my gosh, I almost kind of want to keep the unicorn. That's a unicorn on there. I don't want to carve that up. Never mind. Well, we'll carve up this on the back because that's the Rogue Trader symbol. But. And I kind of want to replace her head with something else. Because her head has lots of filigree on it. What's the small orc troop? Gretchen? Gretchen are an option, although I need to do something that would make them fit into Necromunda is the problem. Because, like, yeah, there's lots of small little guys. There's, Skinks and, Skaven, and... Which, I think, if Ratkin were rats, I could use a Skaven. Ooh. That might be a good idea, using Skaven. Because... Ratkin, sorry, not ratlings, which I know are different than ratlings for some reason. Alright. Gonna carefully scrape off a lot of this filigree on the back here before we go over it with a file. Shave the ears down. Oh yeah, to make them look more like the ratkin, which were like rat-ish people. Yeah, I probably won't do that. I would probably just say that's a ratkin and say screw it, because I like Skaven. From making your own ratling from green stuff, sure, I could. I am not nearly that level of sculptor to be able to sculpt faces or hands or most anything like that. I'm a very amateur sculptor. I can sculpt the fur because it's like fur and chainmail are like 101 sculpting things. Plus, I don't know what I would like. I don't like hobbits and halflings. Ironically, it's one of my favorite books. But like in wargaming, I tend not to like any kind of like hobbits or halfling representation of people of anything. So I don't even have a design doc for what it would be. And of course, there's always 3D prints online. I could go find a ratling that I liked, but that feels against the spirit of what I'm doing, which is kind of making a kitbash team from random other things. Of course, it's hard to... This would be one of those things where, if I was doing this when I was building the kit, this would be way easier, but... I could actually do that instead. I mean, too late, I've already started filing, but for the Death Cult Assassin. That being said, that model is old and busted up, and giving it new life by using it for a team sounds a little more fun. If I was gonna, I guess, with ratlings, what could I do? I like the Skaven idea a lot. Probably gonna do that because it's even just a pun on them being ratlings. Could use gnomes. I hate gnomes, but in a fun way where I don't mind using them as things. Of course, I had to buy the entire gnome Blood Bowl P team just to like kit bash a sniper rifle onto a few of them. Certainly an option. I did have the gnome Blood Bowl team because I was like, I'm gonna make a ratling. This was before the new Venators. I'm like, I'm gonna make a new ratling kill team or whatever. I just never got around to it. Need to get rid of that filigree at the bottom there. Of course, got to shave it down and leave that gap of separation at the trim so the trim doesn't get carved away. You can print out a leprechaun from a horror movie. Oh no. Warwick Davies. Forgot that movie somewhere. Not actually sat down and watched it in a long time. I'm sure it's not good. See, that's the problem. I think it's not just gnomes and halflings I don't like. I tend to dislike the trope of the small person who is a trickster and a, like, annoying, basically. Now, the moment you turn them into a rat and they're Skaven, then I love it again, so I don't know. But even then, they're not tricky and fun, they're just evil. Yeah, I'm gonna use a Skaven. I've talked myself into it. Because I actually have one that I could use for. But I need to make them smaller. So here's the thing. I want to keep that unicorn because it's a really cool, like, I don't think that design is showing up on camera at all. And I don't think I can get it because I didn't even notice it at first. But I want to keep that unicorn design because it's really cool. So I'm going to. I was about to say, what I also need to do is get her off this base because I'm going to be putting on our Necromunda base. So let's cut. Pop. Yeah, the base is still good. Because, yeah, you're going to go on a Necromunda base, ma'am. And with that in mind, Mr. Goo here needs to go. Now, if I wanted to keep her as an actual fighter, that's a Venom Claw toe-to-tip, right? But the problem is Venom Claws aren't very good. At least not outside of Death Maidens, where even then I don't love them over a lot of the other options that they have. Ryan and Rouse Brothers, yep. So the problem with Ryan and Rouse is I do have those as well. Again, I just don't love halflings. But also those I have nostalgia for. I don't want to cut up parts from that. I think you can still get them from like a Barnes & Noble game somewhere, but I don't want to risk it, and I like the Blackstone Fortress minis too much to cut them up. Because there's some great minis in there. Alright, well, I think we can now... That will be debris. Where's my... Recommended bases? There you are. Do I have any that I didn't already... There we go. So here's the thing. Originally she was on a 28, or 25. She's kind of too big for a 25. Like, my leader here is technically... If I put her on a 32, though... That's too big for her. Like, that's too much real estate. It's free real estate. So I want to put her on... I never liked that her basing was... to the, like, whenever you just put her on her base, it was always way... you guys can't see that. So I think we're going to cut down her rot considerably so I can actually put her in the middle of the base. Yeah, third Rattling with a Bolter. Rattling with a Bolter is a fun trope. How does he hold it? It doesn't make sense. Rattlings probably should have some rule where they're not allowed to have heavy weapons, honestly. Like, without suspensors, anyway. Oh, I forgot that Beastmen just get free friends on. I mean, they don't get free friends on, they just don't accept for the negative effects of friends on. And then Ogrins don't have anything special, but they do just have, their Ogrins. Does the Bolter have recoil on a sling? Will the Rattling fire off the Bolter like it does on Jetpack? I mean, it is a... Yeah, like, Bolters would have recoil because it's a rocket that fires it just enough to get... Or it's a gunpowder charge that fires it just enough to get clear of the barrel. And then a rocket, a gyrojet, takes over. So it would still have that initial thump. There we go. See, now that's just a piece of debris. Tactical rock for her foot. Although I do have, I think, something better. Yeah, so I have these. These are the other bases on. These are the old, when they released the Space Battle stuff, they released these bases, which I actually really like. They work fine for Necromunda too. But more importantly, it came with lots of these tactical, I mean, they're tactical rocks, but what they are is they're tactical bits and bobs for you to stick onto your bases. So like right here, you know, I could have that be a... Because that way she's stepping on something that isn't just a rock, but it's something a little more, fits in the universe, you know? So, I'm gonna snap that off. Now, do I want to... No. Be better to glue her to the base. Well, it would be better not to glue her to the base until after it's painted, but I almost never do that with my bases because I'm lazy. So, first off, let's file down her feet because it's still got the leftovers of the last base on there. There's my bigger file. Oh, covered in pigment. Of course. There's an interesting idea for tying weapon usability to user strength. Some games do that, Fallout notably. But, you know, you probably shouldn't be able to fire a bolter without 4 strength. Or suspensors. Alright, let's glue you on here. There we go. I already like that composition better than her old base anyway. Okay, put you back there, let you dry. You Death Cult Assassin. Alright, so, what do we gotta figure out? The sword, I mean, I could replace it with a different weapon, but it doesn't need to be. I also don't think almost anything else I could replace it with is going to work in that same pose, because that is a I have a katana pose, right? Pure and simple. So I need to pop her off her base. Did I plastic glue that on? I think I did. All right, so there we go. Same thing, save that base. Another Necromunda base. Where are you? Now in hers, we just need to remove the filigree. Well, not even remove, just cover. We can just cover up the filigree on the base here. I'm going to carve some of it off. But honestly, just some sprue goo in there and then something else will... She doesn't actually have a ton of filigree on her. At least no more than her. But that is how, you know, often 30k things like this assassin are more utilitarian looking, which is why I tend to like them better. Let me see. I always forgot she has the butt plate. Hey ho, Hive Scummies. Hello, Aluka. You said Hive Scummies, and that makes me think of Hive Gummies. Hive Gummies. You don't want to know what they're made from, but they're delicious. Where'd my big flat, file go? Here they are. Yeesh, these are old. I have some new ones somewhere. I just need to unpack them. Get in there. There we go. Okay. Yeesh. Yeah, I think these are the first files I got. Okay, cornstarch is always cornstarch. I mean, yeah. But you don't want to know how they get to be gummy cornstarch. So this is the problem is like her base being built into the ground does not make sense or work well on a Necromunda base. So we might have to instead... Do I have something to put her on that makes a little more sense? We can make it work with some clever sculpting. But first, let's see if we have to. So I have like these plates. Nope, looks like we have to. That's okay. It's actually not too hard. Although first I think I need to... This has little rivets on it that like stop you from putting something on there flush. Which is like, I love the detail, but why? Because you either have to carve them off or file them down. There we go. Okay. Get that in there. Oop. Alright, same thing as the other. Let you dry. I do have... So here's a great example of, like... Sometimes you have a problem and you look for a solution. Sometimes you have a solution and you look for a problem. This is a solution I've had for ages. I've been looking for the problem that this solves. I've always loved the Killer Morph body. Wow, this guy's dusty as heck. I can tell how long I've been waiting to use it. I've always loved the Killer Morph. But I've never found a reason to use him in Necromunda. Because I don't play Gene Stealers. So I took this Killer Morph, I replaced his third arm basically with another holster so it still looked, you know, kind of kosher. I don't know what to use this guy for. Like, I probably should just stick him on a base, and... Let me see, he's gonna have to go on a... Yeah, he's gonna have to go on a 32. He's a bit big. Stick him on a base for Necromunda, and I just need to figure out what kind of head is on him, and then I'll just paint him up as, something. After taking a can of compressed air to him, because, man, this guy has been sitting in my box for ages and ages and ages, given how much he's not been used and is dusty as heck. So let's stick you on a base. Get a Necromunda base. Nope. Definitely going to be a 32. Because Necromunda doesn't have 28s. Not that it technically matters. However, I think you're also... I mean, I could use a 28mm, like one of these space bases. But he's still just a little too big for that. Yeah, this is a 32 base guy, yeah. Okay, once again, file down connection points. So I need to think of a head to put on this guy. Because, to make him a Venator. I mean, I guess I could just pick any old random head, but... No. I need to think of a theme. What do I want? What do I want this guy to be? Obviously, he's going to be a, you know, pistol arrow. Got, you know, he's going to have the gunfighter skill. That being said, I might replace those pistols with something else more suitable for Necromunda. Because 2 stub guns ain't going to scare anybody. Excuse me. Yeah, allergies are getting to me. I need to blow my nose real quick. Mute. Okay, I'm back. Oh, you know what? I didn't look what was announced for release today. Ooh, new HB, Slanesh, and the stuff from City of Ash. Which, hey, if I'm looking to get some Skaven to play with, not a bad opportunity. All right. So now, well, I mean, I guess those technically aren't. That's the thing. Those technically aren't stub guns, but like, they just look like stub guns. He's also big. I didn't realize how big he is compared to like a person. If you compare these two, he is definitely a heroic scale, huh? Oh, I also forgot this guy was on a base of some sort. Hold on. Where did I put that? Yeah, a little pipe. That's somewhere in that box. Where did you go, little pipe? Well, darned if I know where I put that. Kind of annoying. That's okay, we can make another one for him. Locking the third off of a Kellermorph. I cry. Hey, I've still got one with his third arm. But, you know, see? He's still got his gun. But I don't play Gene Stealers. So this guy, I forgot, yeah, he has a little thing that he's standing on. So that's easily rectified. We just take some tactical blah, blah, blah. Looks like I need 2 tactical blah, blah, blahs. Or a taller tactical blah, blah, blah. Maybe that. Maybe that. Maybe that. Maybe that. I have lots of tactical blah, blah, blah. That's the same one. Ooh, that's taller. There's what I was looking for. Okay. Is that tall enough to just use that? Not quite. Well. Not quite. How about you? We'll make it a little more natural. So let's put that down. And then that's too small to fit on top of it. Could just do doesn't look natural. It needs to be going from big to small. Because otherwise it doesn't look like it makes any sense. Now that, on the other hand, nope. That. There we go. So that goes down first. And something else goes on top of it. How about you? Broken. A full day of wargaming yesterday. First, a 4-hour session of historical. Good heavens. And then another 4 hours of Trench Crusade. My goodness. You probably are tired. I would be. I worked outside almost all day yesterday, which was great. I even remembered to wear sunscreen, except I was working on with our tractor, and I forgot that your knees also need sunscreen, so I have no sunburns on my head or hands or arms, but I do have sunburned knees, which really hurts. I have no one to blame but myself. So that's why you wear long pants or put sunscreen on your knees. Because the problem with your knees is you can't not move them unless you don't move. There we go. So, all right, let's cement these in place. What was the historical game? Does it have a name, or were you just, was it homemade? Plausible excuse for red knees. Good, sir. I'm afraid I don't. Wait. Oh no, I do think I get the joke. So it's actually not my knees; it's the skin right above my knees. Because you know, if you think when you're sitting down in a chair, where's the sun gonna hit? It doesn't hit like on the surface of my actual knees. It hits on my I guess you would call it your, but not your calf. I guess your lower calf. I don't know where your knee connects to your leg. I look like a lobster. During a campaign, can you yesterday? Got a good match. Ended with the Gene Stealers running away with it again. Those Gene Stealers, they pick up people's pants and run away with them. There we go. Well, he's on a base now. All right, let's go back to you and let's we're literally just gonna put tiny bits of this stuff. New person is joining, but it seems like the other new guy doesn't want to show up anymore. That's a shame. I mean, sometimes you do just find that people don't, you know. Part of Necromunda is you do have to be able to roll with the punches, but that doesn't change human psychology, which is like if you start something new and you get your teeth kicked in, you don't really want to keep doing it. So all we're doing here, potentially, I don't actually know if I'm going to stick with this, is kind of... you know, it might just be better just to leave her foot as sitting on... I want to do something with it. Problem is her foot, the way her foot is angled, it's a very... I mean, it's angled, right? So... which I could do. Let's try something here. Ah! Like you guys can see what's going on, but I'm trying to cut an angle in the bottom of this to make it match the angle of her. Corpse Grinders lost hard twice against the Spires, and then me with a mining laser. Yeah, and the Corpse Grinders are kind of one note, right? So... hey everyone, lunchtime bashing is always good. Yeah, I had a calzone for lunch. It was fine. So... we get this to stick on here. Like it's also busted up at an angle. Could actually... place that. And they already glued her down. Let's see what we can do here. Kind of hope CGC wasn't a player. I have mixed feelings on Corpse Grinder cults. Like, I don't have a problem with them being in there, but I do wish that they were. I wish they were not just one note. Like, it's okay that they're the best at melee. The problem is that they either do tend to just like absolutely win or absolutely lose, meaning that someone has a bad time, and that's less fun. Okay, there we go. Because, you know, people used to say the same thing about enforcers, but I think we're at the point now where enforcers are actually quite, you know, quite playable. But yeah, they're definitely not fully fleshed out. It's the weird things like, you know, they're really good at melee, but they also have the absolute best juvies in the game for like holding ranged weapons, which felt like a way to get them ranged weapons, but like they shouldn't have that then. But then that would just make them even more lean into they only do one thing, and that's not necessarily as fun. They need we've often said that we need a House of Chaos book or House of Ruin book, and they are, well, I'm not gonna say front and center because at least they're way more playable than the Chaos cults, but yeah, they need the rework treatment. They are overdue for that. And hey, you know, the Enforcers got one, and they came out with the Paladin or the Corpse Grinders, so there's hope. Yeah, just don't skip. The Jews can use any weapon, just don't stick with the initial sculpts. Yeah, and like you can't, you know, if someone is fully invested in the idea of playing Corpse Grinders as like, well, no, I want to run forward and punch things while screaming, then there's not a lot you can necessarily do. I wonder if I could just like redo her entire foot so she's not at an angle at all. Yeah. So we're gonna re-stick her to the base, and then kind of build underneath her, which is might sound weird, but it'll work. So right now she's gonna be doing the 1 foot jig for a bit. She do big steppy. There you go. So right now she looks like she's tapping her foot, like about to dance. So we'll slide in some stuff under there later. Okay, so I literally don't have any ideas for this, so I'm just gonna talk through them for a second. First off, is there any filigree I need to hunt down and remove? Well, it's on her head and on her shoulder pad here. Ooh, is that? Oh, wow. She was actually kind of broken here. Her arm was sticking out because the glue there hadn't come fully dried. This is a problem with push fit minis. Get in there. Let's repair that first and foremost. There we go. Death from above. Primus has after every activation roll strength or go prone because it's windy. Oh yeah, so that just instantly kills a melee army unless you have something that stops her from going prone. Okay, well I guess we need to let her repaired arm dry a little bit. That'll help her composition a lot. Gotta replace the head though. Do I replace it with another head, or do I give her something else in that hand? I think I can give her a pistol in that hand. Let's do that. And kind of doing I just acted out the pose as if you guys could see it, but like the gun behind her anime thing, which she's already kind of doing, right? She is already very I am the anime. Cuckoo, kachoo. And then for the filigree in there, we're not going to try and actually go like fix that. We're just going to grind the heck out of that so it just looks like rust. And that will solve that problem right quick. I gotta find a head for you, Kellamorph man. All right, you. Are you back to dry yet? I think so. Let's try one more time. So, the arm we want is more in front of her. Oh, I just need to leave the tail off until I drill a pin in that, because it's going to keep breaking. Yeah. Kills every army, barely anyone more than strength 3. 60 models prone every round. Yeah, oh god. So what we want is kind of that number. We could build it up with lots of less successive layers, or we could just do a little green stuff ball. So we're going to do that. Score it. Peel it off. Oh, that's fine. Put the plastic off. Of course, this is already way more green stuff that I'm going to need, because you never need that much green stuff to just do a tiny little thing, so I'll have to find some others and like put it on the base of something. I don't know. Of course, you got to remove the chunks where they touched each other. Put that away, and then let's start mixing. Making some green stuff. Excuse me. Thinking. So besides her, I'm going to replace the head with a pistol. And I'll carve off some of those, the skulls. I just realized she has a snake on her filigree. I wonder if they all had filigree on there that I just missed. Or the animal filigree. I like the unicorn, though. That can stay. Then again, I don't know if it will. The more I think about it and think of the painting it, because, she'll probably be in rogue dock whites with blues. And does that unicorn have a place? I don't think it does. I think I will actually carve that off here in a second. Same thing with her snake. Gotta carve off the filigree on her. I'm gonna have to hold that. She has some filigree on her shoulder that I gotta get rid of. That one's gonna be really hard. And then her big thing is her helmet. I might pop her head off and replace it with something, which will not be easy because her helmet's like built into her shoulder. But doesn't mean it can't be done. Gotta be a little creative. And I'll look through my head bits to see what else I have. Could just put a normal, like, Escher head on her. And give her an Escher background. I need to look in the backgrounds again. This is one where, especially for the Ogrins and Ratlings, I should probably decide what I'm equipping them with before I start kitbashing them. Because, what they're gonna have is gonna inform how the kitbashing works. Okay, so we got our green stuff nice and mixed up. I only need a tiny little bit of this. I think I need even less than that. Good heavens. Because we really don't need much. We'll use the others to put magnets on their bases. There we go. Itty bitty green stuff ball. And then... that's still probably too much green stuff. Yeah. Cut it in half again. Yeah. No. They stuck together. Cut the green stuff in half. Shoop. Get. There we go. The tiniest ball of green stuff. All right. That will be good. Where'd my super glue go? Because obviously you can't use plastic glue on green stuff, it won't work. So we're going to put a tiny dab of that there. Ah! That was way too much. There we go. Tiny dab. And then our green stuff ball. Slurp. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to press that on there. Kind of get it into shape. And then we'll take our arm. I'm actually going to wet the arm for a bit so it doesn't stick to the green stuff before we want it to. Now that, of course, will not stick until we tell it to with some super glue. We're just going to use that to kind of make our initial shape. Okay. Perfect. And then another tiny dab of glue. Here we go. And boom. Now, okay, so I only got one shot to make this level, so because as it's drying, it will sag, so I need to get where I want it to be. And then while that's drying, we're going to wet the tip of our X-Acto, not with a knife, or not with your tongue, because it's a blade. And we're going to kind of press that in there. Now, we don't actually care about it filling the gap, because the gap I can fill later with more sprue glue. That's actually very easy. We actually want it to not be too far outside, making a donut ring, because that is really hard to fix. So, you want it to be level with the ground. There we go. So, gotta get down to that from eye level. Perfect, because it looks like she's kind of casually just putting her gun out there and killing some poor fool. Now we're going to carefully balance this on the back so that it dries straight up and down. And that's going to have to sit there for a good 24 hours to really fully cure. While we're waiting for that, I've got some other green stuff here, so let's put it on the bases of these two. Because, you know, why not? Magnets, where's my magnets? I've done this on stream a few times, and also we got a video on it, but the TLDR, I should take a ball of green stuff, get a little bit of it. You rough up the bottom of your base. Although this one matters less because it's already got lots of texture down here. Glue. Green stuff ball. we go. Glue. Magnet. Wet your surface with our painting water. Or your spit if you're gross. I do that sometimes. Press it on there. Quick look. Make sure it's not. There we go. And good. Oh, wait. I don't know why I'm covering up. I gotta do the next one. Looks like this one already had some magnet super glue to it, but you can see Keely, I did not rough up the surface, and so it didn't stick. Gotta mess some things up sometimes, right? Okay. Get in there. Get on there. That's too much for that, but I don't have another base I want to super glue right now, so whatever. Oops. That was way too much. That's okay. Still works. Probably means it won't come out. Make sure it's nice and flush, because the one thing I hate is a base that doesn't sit flush. You need more glue under your heel. Ah, she fell off. Get and stay got, dang it. There we go. I have to actually hold that there for a few seconds. Here we go. All right. Leave that to dry. Okay. Patience, patience. As always, my problem is patience. So, working on that one, working on that one. What about you? Like, I'm never going to use her for whatever else I was ever going to use her for, right? But I got to think about that. Thinky. Let's do a check on Mr. Snake here. You did not see the previous streams. I've been working on him, letting him dry. I believe the last thing I had to do was I noticed down here there was a gap in between the tail. So I had to really fill that with some sprue goo, and now I'm going to go in and kind of rough that up a little bit so it still looks like natural scales. Nothing too bad, but same thing in there. There's kind of a seam line. It's really annoying. Not too worried about the one in there, but the one out here I am worried about because, you know. So what we'll do to make sure that fades in is we'll score a scale mark there. There we go. So now it matches the rest of the ridges. He's actually ready for priming. Woo! If it would stop raining, because it's been raining here for ages and ages and ages. Patience, and I'll cut once, hope and pray. Less for mine is more the patience of letting something dry. Letting my glue dry before I pick at it and poke at it and work at it more. And then things fall apart. All right, let's clean up our mess a little bit. I'm going to refill my water. I will be right back. Water. Okay. Well, I got to the point where I wanted everything to dry faster than I intended. So, let's go weather some things. So I've got here is these are going to be bridges for my ruined Zone Mortalis tile. I shouldn't say that, for my Toxic Lake Zone Mortalis tile, because very notably, it's not ruined Zone Mortalis. It's just a normal Zone Mortalis that has a giant, sump lake in the middle of it. So I've got these, and kind of interestingly here, I don't know why I just tried to put my water inside my container of plastic cement. Sky Shield, hello! Sky Shield. So I've got these bridges, and kind of funny thing, you see how you got these lines under there? I didn't paint them like that. This was that plastic card for diamond plate, and I primed it. And, I primed in a very thin layer, because you don't want to goop the primer on. And I guess I did a really good job of keeping that layer thin, because you can still see through the plastic. Which is fine. So what we need to do first is make these opaque. And we're going to make them opaque by just putting some good old paint on them. I could go put another layer of primer on, but, that crap's expensive. Why waste it? So, let's stick this on here. Get some brown paint and go to town. There we go. Because now, it's like, why brown? It's going to be metal. Yeah, but it's going to be rusty metal, which means I'm going to brown it and then dry brush with other colors. So, we got that. Where's the brown paint I don't care about? Well, I'm trying to make this opaque, so I'm not going to use my craft store paints. Because those are not particularly opaque. Petroleum brown, which is a great brown, however, is very black brown. There we go. Got my black brown. Petroleum brown is great because it's glossy, looks like oil spill. Yep, need to clean up that brush. Oh no, I left a brush out. It's a dry brush, so I don't care that much, but still. Okay. Oops. I guess I need to replace that blue tack, because that did not want to stick worth a darn. Stick. Stick. There we go. We will actually also do the sides and undersides of this. Hi, chat. Sorry I'm late. Don't worry, Spudgy. You never have to worry about being late here. You didn't miss anything super exciting. Just mostly some boring kit bashing today. Everything's drying now, so we're putting some brown on heat management with a hive. There's a bunch of lore to it. I need to reread it. Now, you can tell which side is going to be the bottom of this because for the bottom we did just use sprues. Which is fine, because from the top that looks like iron railing. That's my secret, Captain. I'm always worried. Alright. So yeah, we're going to do the sides and bottom. The sides. Not most of the bottom, because you'll never see it, but you will see the sides. Where do you get the creepy metal stuff? This stuff right here? This is, I got it from a local Hobby Time USA, but they sell it just online as like diamond plate plastic card, basically. I do know also there are like rollers, texture rollers for green stuff, but yeah, I just got it for look for model. You're looking for model train stuff, basically. Whenever you look for stuff like that, this is for model trains, not for technically for wargaming, but yeah, it's yeah. I always use sprue for girders. Yeah, sprue makes great girders. As long as you can't see the underside of these little things, you got to file those off because those immediately identify it as being sprue. So yeah, we are going to get the sides because you will see those. Yep. Check your model train stores, local model train stores. They're going to have a lot of them there. I just raided a local hobby town the other day and came away with a whole loot of plasticard and scale model stuff for trains, and those folks are where it's at because they know how to do realistic looking terrain. And because it's a bigger hobby than wargaming, it's cheaper. Hobbycraft tomorrow before a game. Yeah. Well, it is plasticard. It's just plasticard with a uh, oh my gosh, I can't speak today. A pattern inscribed on it. Yeah, dude, we see. Yeah, the hives. I mean, you can do anything in the hives, right? The framing of the door was all sprue. Yeah, you can make sprue. You can, people say don't ever use sprue because it just looks like sprue. That's not entirely true. You can make sprue look like other things. You just have to put the effort in to make it, or just embrace it. You know, kind of like the old deodorant tanks. Like you can tell it's a deodorant bottle sometimes, but who cares? Okay, so wait for that to dry. While waiting for that to dry, let's go back to our gals here. All right. So, hate to do it, but I'm going to have to carve away that unicorn. Because it doesn't quite fit with my... I also need to carve away this Imperial Aquila up here. Be careful on this one or I'll carve away the chest, for lack of a better term. Okay. Successive small layers of cuts. I'm trying to get the whole thing off at once. We're almost filing it more than anything, just with a very precise file. I need to do her base first. Because otherwise she's not going to stay. Yeah, uninhabitably hot hive is something that is absolutely going to be part of it. Doesn't really get talked about. The reality is what Necromunda does, which is what most 40k does. I have to sneeze. Can I get a third one? Apparently not. Which is that, this is run by ancient technology we don't understand, so it can do whatever we want it to do whenever we want it to do it. Don't think about it too hard. Which is fine. There you are. Okay. Gonna slide that in there to get our little... But I gotta figure out the right angle for it. The problem is she was always at a kind of a weird angle that I didn't like anyway. But her frame is meant to do that. They were supposed to look heroic and stuff. Thank you. Yeah, it's solidified ancient microplastics. Okay. Oh, I got some green stuff here. Get off. Go. Get. Okay. slide that in here. And voila. She has her little standing thing again, but this time more Necromunda-y. We'll let that dry fully before working on it anymore, because I'd like to, you know, integrate it a little more into the base by putting some other bits around it. Oops. Again, a bit of green stuff. Hello, Iron Thumbs. Alright, so we're going to let that dry fully before we start carving off the filigree. Okay. Let's put another layer of brown on our... Well, no. That's the problem. It's so darn humid in here. Hold on, I'm going to go turn on my dehumidifier. The stuff's not drying right. Ow. It's like 80% darn humidity around here. Because it just won't stop raining. All I wanted to do is stop raining. Alright, you, on the other hand, you're fully dry to your base, and we know what you want to do with you. So, we're going to cut off your hand and give you a pistol. About $1 for every time I heard that phrase. I wouldn't have any money. No one's ever said it to me. Unfortunately, I keep trying to convince them to. So, are you going for a Venator gang to play? Do you have a theme story you're thinking of? I am going for a Venator gang. Just because I've never played one. But this is not going to be my next gang. I am still slowly painting my Vansar for that when I'm in the mood to paint. I haven't done it on the stream for a bit. But, my Venators I'm not in a rush to do. So I'm just kind of being like, well, how do I want to do that? How do I want to, make them work? And I'm just slowly over time going to kitbash all of them. So, this will be one where the theme and the story is every individual is going to have a theme and a story. They're all going to be strange people of the Underhive. Like this, this is Dr. Techman or whatever. I'll come up with a name for him. I'm bad at names. It's always the last thing I do. Oh, I got to give him a Necromunda base, too. Hold on. What's he do? What's he there? Probably an ex-Vansar guy. Yeah, they don't come with an own theme. So I'm not giving a gang theme, because I always kind of figured that Venators wouldn't, or don't necessarily have to be all themed across the gang, but each of them is a strange individual. So I guess my theme is weirdos. Just strange people from in the Underhive who've come together under bounty hunters. Some of them might be friends, some of them might be rivals. And they'll all have names and backstories. The two people who are clearly Death Cult assassins, or were at some point. There we go. Okay. Basically kind of giving them their own weird backstories in the same way that Necromunda does for the, Dramatis Personae. Like, there's a lot of Dramatis Personae who have no real anything except this is a weird sculpt that somebody on the design team wanted to make, and they did. Like Rex Spires or Estus Jet. Hey, that's why I cut away from me. I've definitely sliced myself doing that, but I know at this point how not to. Step one was to get a very sharp hobby knife. Alright. I also think that the theme will come about organically as I do it. And the other goal is to be able to use them all as bounty hunters after when I'm not using them, so that when I need a bounty hunter for another gang, because you can get them as rewards and stuff like that. Yeah, and that's a great way to put it, Spudgies. Like your leaders and champions have the backstories. Those are the important people. And your leader has the most backstory and is probably just a charismatic individual who can get them. And then your other gangers are just kind of like, okay, guys who just showed up. And maybe the gangers can be matched to some of the leaders and champions. So like, okay, these champions brought these folks with them. Anyway, okay, so I can look at her spindly little wrists here, and I already know exactly what gun I'm going to put on her. She's getting a plasma pistol, or at least some kind of Escher pistol. Dr. Techman, the Exalted Tech addict from the Venators of the Solar Similar Maintenance. He replaces the light bulbs, there you go. Yeah, just a wire maintenance guy. And people just won't get out of his way and leave him alone. He just wants to fix the wires. I could give her a las pistol, with the understanding that with that giant sword, Sky Shield, some might be a lover. Speaking of, is the cat lady single? Sky Shield, we have a Patreon now. You don't have to keep giving me money individually. Not that I'm going to complain. Is the cat lady single? I don't know yet. I haven't decided. Yeah, I could give her I could give her not a plasma pistol, just a regular pistol, which I might have to do because I might be out of Escher plasma pistols. Uh-oh. The problem with the Escher plasma pistols being very good bits is that I run out of them. Yes, I think I am. Ooh. So now, well. Is that a double barrel shotgun with a magazine? It is. I need to find a way to use that. He wants to find money for fancy food, yeah. I mean, that's why I don't like Ratlings, is because they all have that story. I kid. Kind of. You know what? I'm gonna say the cat lady is in an on-again, off-again relationship with this gal. You know what? They can't make it work, and they hate each other. It's definitely a friends to enemies thing, or yeah, enemies to... I don't know the tropes. Sorry, I haven't kept up on my AO3 reading. But that's what we decided. And it's a love triangle, because Dr. Techman here really likes this gal for her tech, but she's not into him. And this guy's just happy to be here. Oh no, one of my other Ratlings has a long-term dream of learning to fly a plane. I'm gonna have a ganger who is not a Ratling, but it will just be a Ratling who is on stilts. How about that? They were... Oh my god, they were roommates. One wants to school because he's Mr. Ratburn from Author. Oh no! So, I will say that if I was going to put a pistol on her that is not a plasma pistol, like plasma pistol is the best thing for her, even if I'm not planning to... Even if you're only planning to have her be in combat, having a pistol is better than having nothing at all. However, very clearly she would have a needle pistol, right? Like... If anyone's going to have an alternate pistol, she'd have the needle pistol. But again, I hate needle pistols. I barely tolerate them on Death Maidens, and those are the ones who actually make them good. But it appears that I have completely used up all of my Escher plasma pistols, unless I put one somewhere. Check something real quick. Scroll, scroll, scroll. Okay, what I wanted to check was, do Escher background Venators still have the ability to access toxins? And really no. Let's give her a really small bow. Are any of these bows one-handed for the Wild Runners? Are either of them left-handed is the problem. I don't think they are. I think they're all Wait, that's her right hand. Hold on. Yeah, okay, sorry. Are any of them right-handed? Because I think most bows are left-handed because you hold them in your offhand, and Necromunda doesn't really tend to, you know. Nope. All right. So, do I want to go through my list of basically how desperate am I to put a plasma pistol on this lady? Am I actually desperate to put a plasma pistol on this lady? Do I really care that much? Or should I just put a needle pistol on her? If I really want her to be good, how would a bow be one-handed? Carefully. If I want her to be good, I should not put a needle pistol on her, because the needle pistol is not and has never been good. Time to look through my bits. Now, other pistols to put on her would be the bolt pistol. Again, could do the same thing I did with the cat lady over here, and just give her something that is not actually in the game, and then you could just say it's whatever you want it to be. Always an option. Found a plasma pistol. It's Orlock. That won't do. I found a bolt pistol. Bolt pistols are also always good. Cool is good, yes, absolutely, but I also think plasma pistols are really good. Combi plasma stub from a Goliath? Is that in the normal Goliath, or is that only in the upgrade kit? Because I have normal Goliath, but I do not have the upgrade kit. Oh, here's a Van Sar plasma pistol. Ooh. Ooh, that's kind of cool, though. Eldar Shuriken pistols are always an option. Again, because I'm sticking into not being rogue traders, I'm trying to avoid, like, the hard alien tech. If we were doing rogue traders, very different story. Shuriken pistol is 100% kosher. Dang it, all the pistols I already gathered out for my, I can give her a grenade launcher. Boom. All the pistols I picked out already for my, cat lady conversion were all right-handed, because that was the gun, or all left-handed, because that's the gun she was shooting. Yeah, I've got lots of plasma pistols, but they're all Orlock. Give her an undersung plasma pistol. Posted the final Trench Crusade fig of the court and finished projects. Yeah, we just released our court video. Our court of the Seven-Headed Serpent. They're complicated, but they're good. I need to play court. I just haven't found any demons that speak to me. I think Hunter the Left-Handed Path is the only one of the actual Trench Crusade ones. Have her one hand a plasma gun. I might get yelled at for that one. I did that with my rat guy, and my reasoning was he's not one hand shooting it. He's just one-handed, you know. He's one-handed holding it right now. Plasma gun. Let me see. Nope. Where'd my... I'm going to look through the Goliath bits real quick. The problem with the Goliath bits is I have a feeling none of those hands are going to fit. Right? Like... I've got my Goliath, and I'm not terribly... Problem is all those guns, even the the stub plasma. The stub combi must be in the normal kit, because it looks like it's not in here. Plasma pistol moves like Austin Powers. Yeah. I mean, look, with this gal, it wouldn't be Plasma Pistol's boobs, it'd be Plasma Pistol butt, because she's got individualized butt plates. Oh, there's the combi stub revolver. Okay, that is amazing. However, it is also the size of her entire torso. So, not quite the look I'm going for on her. I'm making a mental note to find someone who can use that later because it's hilarious. There's another solution looking for a problem. Let's see what else we've got in our... Oh, it's not cowardice. It's about what vibe am I going for. And the vibe I'm going for isn't quite that. It's a cool vibe, though, so I'm going to kind of put it in the back of my head because I like it, and I'm going to find something to do that with. That's how these tend to go, is like... Okay, that's really cool. Not what I'm envisioning for this character at this moment. But you put it away in the back of your head for later, because maybe it's not what you want right now, but it might be what you want later. Could just have a good old stub pistol. Like, nothing wrong with that. And then later you upgrade it to plasma and just say that, you know, she puts in plasma bullets. I mean, you joke about one-handing the plasma pistol gun, but I do have these Orlock. You can carve the, Oh, what if I gave her a pump-action shotgun? Hold on. I mean... Okay, well, first, let's cut off her hand, because we know that's going to get cut off. Cut it off at the wrist. Don't worry, ma'am, you won't feel a thing, because you're not real. And then this neophyte hybrid shotgun, which is a sentence. Ooh, that hand's way too big. Well, you say shotguns are always the right answer, but I don't think that works with her vibe. Oh, even though that's basically the Doom pose, right? Okay, I'm gonna keep looking. But again, we're putting a pin in that under... Don't forget about one-handing a shotgun. I'm actually, so far, kind of digging the good old stub gun. Now, in case we don't end up putting a gun on her, or don't end up putting a pistol on her, I'm going to set aside some holstered pistols, because that way I can put one on her and say she still has it. Let me see. Revolver. Ooh. I mean, there is always the sawn-off shotgun. Thinking a shotgun needs unstable. One-handing a shotgun. It's not unstable, it just always hurts every time. It's a colossally bad idea, but, you know. It's not going to take you out of action. Yeah, that's a jackal arm, yeah. You got the jackal kit. Great kit. Especially for one-handed pistols. One-handed anything, honestly. This little guard stuff. This Ogren stuff will come in handy later, but we'll burn that bridge when we get to it. Space Marine stuff is right out because, like, yeah, I know there's plasma pistols in here, but they're so comically large on her, and she's what I would describe as a small-framed individual. If you were building a character class from her, you would call her Escher class. I do have lots of beat-up Eldar, by the way. Look at that guy. Yeah, they were sold to me as is. I was not pleased, because he was like, oh yeah, they're in great condition, and lacked the social, or rather I had too much social awkwardness at the time to go, I'm not buying these. That's not good condition at all. It's what I should have done. Would have burnt that bridge with that guy, but that bridge ended up getting burned anyway, so what the hell's the point? Alright, now we do, once again, we could go to our friends, the AdMech. Let me go ahead and get out some AdMech bits here. I do have the sawn-off shotgun as well. Plasma pistols are used as, the Space Marine plasma pistols are used as plasma guns. I think that's a great idea. I think the size is perfect. Yeah, I could do one, sawn-off shotgun. The problem is, sawn-off shotguns, as we have discussed, are just really not very good. They're not awful. I've kind of warmed up on them in a lot of ways, but they're not very good. Now, we're also, as we're going through here, we're kind of looking for heads, too, because I might replace her head. I wonder if a Skitarii head would be, like, just a hooded one. I think the problem is you would see that as a Skitarii head, and it would just look like a Skitarii head, right? It wouldn't look like not a Skitarii head, it would just look like... Yeah. I have to blend it in somehow. Because I like the idea of just like a hooded assassin instead of the weird bug thing she's got. But that's what I was looking for. There's that pistol. Man. Sisters of Battle. You know, I don't have a single Sisters of Battle kit except for the one special edition one, and I really should. Aha! I think that's what I was going for, the radium pistol. I'm also going to get out an arc pistol because I know I have one. I should. Did I get rid of all my arc pistols? Or rather, did I use all my arc pistols? And if so, why? And on what? Oh, better my biscuits, apparently I did. Not sure on what I used them on, but I don't have any more. Should be like 2 or 3 in the kit, unless there was only 1 in the kit. But I have 2 kits here. Yeah, I don't have a single... I should get a Sisters of Battle box, because I feel like... Oops, that's the wrong. Because I feel like for kit bashing purposes, they would be very handy for me. But I haven't gotten around to getting one. I might go to the store, to the game shop later today, because I got some Halo stuff in. And if I do, I might pick up some other boxes for some kit bashing purposes. Well, beans. I just apparently do not have any more arc pistols, which sucks. Oh, you know why? Because I used them all when I actually built my Skitarii for Kill Team. Yeah, I really like this radiant pistol. I think that's what we're going with. Saw time. I have guard out the wazoo. Yeah, guard I've got, I've got more guard than I know what to do with. But I don't find that guard often ends its way into my kit bashing, unless you're talking about Mr. Beep Boop here, who has a guard pack on. Okay, so. Get off. There we go, okay. Alright, so I have a feeling, though, that I'm going to need to replace the hand, the grip, with Yeah, so. Although that hand there is more appropriately sized. So what we can do, be very careful with this, cut away from me. Haha! Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to, for some reason the hand on the radium pistol is like bigger than the hand on the, I don't remember this. This is a Volkite pistol, which is too big for her. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut that hand off, put it on this hand here for the radium pistol, which will not be easy. But we're going to do it. A little bit at a time. Oh, too much, too much. Okay. I have to cut that the old-fashioned way. There we go. And then take the trigger finger with it because that's coming in from the other kit. There we go. It's bent up, but that's okay. We can bend it back into shape. Maybe. Okay. So, after a lot of faffing about there, smooth this out. Make it flush. Bend this back a little bit. There we go. Okay. And now we need to take this hand from here, and put it on. So that pistol needs to be all the way out. So that needs to be a flat surface there. Okay. Now we need to do a square cut. Easier said than done. I am not going to cut that with my hobby knife because there's no way. Well, he says that, but I don't think it's a good way to do it otherwise. So we're going to put it here. I need a sharper blade because I've used this blade. Aha! It said it couldn't be done. Nobody said it couldn't be done. Thank you all for your support. Boom! All right, I'm actually going to... I think I can even keep the trigger. I cut very precisely. Need to cut a little more precisely. And then surgery that onto that. Need to make that straight. The more and more I think about it, the more I want to take her head off and replace it with something else. I do not know what. If I could find another fill-in head, that would actually be ideal. Shit, I just dropped that. Oh no. There it is. Are there any other sources of, like, feline-ish heads? I mean, I could just print stuff, and that is an option. I am not averse to printing by any means for Necromunda. First, however, let's take a moment to celebrate this radium pistol. Look at that. That looks like a gun. So we've successfully mated it to a hand that matches her profile much better. So we're going to wait for that to dry fully, which is going to kill me because I'm excited to use it. Well, we're going to straighten it out and then wait for it to dry fully. But we even managed to save the trigger guard in here, with the trigger group, which I'm really excited about. I do hope to get a printer here at some point. Yeah, and an FDM printer. Yeah, it really does raise the terrain game. All right, so yeah, all right. We're going to set you aside. Now, are you dry yet? Nope, I'm going to wait for her to be dry before I actually work on her more, but we'll still talk about her. Here's the thing. Right now, she's just a rogue doc, right? I could leave her as a rogue doc, or I could give her a pistol and make her into something else, right? Like, I could give her a shotgun. I could have her be another bounty hunter. That being said, her coat is very I'm a doctor-y, right? And she's got the venom thing. Yeah, we should leave her as it is, because at that point, it's like, why am I using the model? However, I will be replacing her head as well. That's the data that I want to, like, apothecary's cabinet to store bits in with all the little drawers and stuff. That's what I have. I had one, or I have a couple. They've all filled. So I have the things that hold, like, these things. You know, it's a chest of these things, and I've labeled them. So, like, this is my one for tubes, because these tubes are great for, like, pipes in terrain. Rogue doc, well, like, yeah, like a rogue doc who has abandoned whatever passes for a Hippocratic oath in the Underhive is absolutely a cool backstory for a Venator. She needs, yeah. Oh, she's got a tragic backstory. She needs a new liver for someone. I don't do tragic backstories. But I should say, I've never been able to write one without sounding hokey. She could just say she's just an organ farmer. Alright. We're also going to... I had the taser bit on the head there. It didn't look right. So now I kind of want to put a different gun tip on the top there. An antique one? Oh, you want a nice one. When I ever upgrade to a new living space, I will be looking into real furniture. For right now, I run a very really quickly carve off the... Oh, she has a wealthy client that needs a new liver. Yeah, okay, there you go. Which is weird, because you could think they could just grow them, but maybe it's like a fallen noble, somebody who, like, used to have access to all this stuff and now can't. So she sends out this member of her house. So here's the thing with kitbashing. When I do kitbashing, I like to, and the reason why I'm talking about removing this arm is right now she just is that rogue trader model in Necromunda, which is fine. Like, this assassin right here, I'm not messing with this assassin at all. So that, you don't have to modify everything that comes through the door. But I like to. So, like, this gal just looks like that. The kill team model, even once I cut the filigree off. This guy just looks like Mr. Techman. I cut a lot of the, I can carve off the stuff, but between his head, which I think I am also going to replace. You know, I want to ground them more in Necromunda. Venators are weird and different, but they're still Necromundan. Like, you know, Venators are still all people who live on Necromunda, right? That hasn't changed. So I kind of want to give her something that grounds her more in Necromunda as an ex-rogue doc model. To which end, yeah, I think I will carve off that that hand there, as silly as it sounds. Give her a pistol. I'm going to need to buy more plasma pistols, though. Although I could give her a bolt pistol. You want to change the silhouette? Yeah, sometimes. You just want it to be not immediately recognizable as just, oh yeah, you're just playing that model in Necromunda. Which, by the way, is perfectly fine. I just, like, when I do these kit bashes, I like to go somewhere different. I mean, just this gal was just a classic bolt pistol might actually be really cool. Or even just classic stub gun, you know? First do no harm? No. First do harm. Either way, we'll have to cut off that pistol and that venom injector to find, or that hand and that venom injector to find out. So. Second, third playthrough through a big RPG? Yeah, I could see that. Oh, wait. There we go. That one's kind of hard because she's got this wrist thing. I mean, I guess we don't have to pull the injector off. No, she's not in an action pose. So. If I don't pull the injector off, it's going to look weird no matter what I do. So. Plus, we can use that for other things. But I don't lose it. But it's about 3 o'clock, and I have to record with Mitchell because we've got a lot of GHB stuff. Yeah, especially we talked about that earlier. The only reason I'm cutting into these is because I have backups now. These used to be out of print. These are the original Rogue Trader ones. Mine are red because they came from Kill Team, the old Kill Team. But now I have a backup, and I have a spare box, so I don't mind cutting into these. All right. Well, it's about 3 o'clock, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me on this Kitbashing journey. We'll continue with this. Streaming next Thursday with the gang, and next Sunday again. A reminder that everything we do is possible because of you folks watching and sharing and all that good stuff, and thank you so much for that. We did launch our new Patreon. Check that out if you just want to give us a tip through a tip jar. It has no bonuses except a tip jar and a red name on Discord. Woo! But by all means, don't feel like you have to. We appreciate just you hanging out. So have a great day, everybody. Stay tuned for the Sunday Rundown coming in a few hours, and I will see you next week.